Right, mate. So before we get stuck into your rugby story, where was home for a young Tom and who lived with you?
Oh, go back, eh? Right, yeah. So I am. I was brought up in St Helens, but I was born a
Yeah.
Liverpool boy.
Right.
And my family's from Liverpool and Whiston, and then
Yeah.
mum's side of the family's full Liverpoolians, but dad's Southport, and I got into rugby just out of chance really. I was playing football because my dad was a decent footballer, played for Liverpool and not professionally, but he played on going through the ranks and stuff.
Yeah.
So he wanted me to go down that route, and I played football for a bit until I was about 5 or 6, and then I didn't really like it at the time. I think I was just pushed in a bit too soon, and my dad was too keen to make me be a footballer. And I think I just rebelled against it, to be honest, more than anything. And then just moved to St Helens when I was about 7 or 8, and just like kind of picked it up alongside of that, and ended up going down to Thatterweath.
Right.
We weren't Thatterweath at the time; they were called St Helens Crusaders at the time.
Crusaders, mate. Back when we were younger, yeah.
Back in the day, mate. Yeah. So I used to went down there. I think I went down about 6 or something like that, 5 or 6.
Right.
But really enjoyed it, and just carried on from there really. But always kept playing football at the same time and stuff. But really just took to it a bit, like just enjoyed it. Just clicked with me really, and then the rest is history really. Just took it from there.
So, as a kid, mate, was physicality something you enjoyed? So, is that what you got from the rugby, and you got a little bit of something else from the footy, maybe?
Yeah, I think it was more the fact that my dad didn't do it that I thought, like, I don't know, I was obviously young and I can't really remember what my thought process was at the time. I just think it was something different, and I just wanted to try something different. And obviously, moving from Liverpool to St Helens, I think it was a bit of a way of fitting in as well, and like new people, new surroundings, new school, and all that when you're a bit younger.
Yeah.
And you just like everyone was playing rugby, and I just felt like, oh well, fit in. You felt like you had to. I felt like that at the time.
Yeah.
Just
follow the flow.
Yeah, follow the flow. Everyone around there, everyone in school. I was at Bleak Hill Primary School, and everyone just played rugby, and so just felt like that was the natural progression, really.
Right. And what age did you have to sort of decide?
I don't know. I just think it just came. That's because I took to it pretty well. I was a fast kid and just took to it, and just as they do, as you see them these days, all the kids running around up and down, and not really got any shape or anything about the play, but just take it, grab it, run and score, and then obviously scoring. I'm just like, all right, I like this.
All right, bragger.
This is what I like to do. I'll do this. Well, at that age I was, but then you get a bit up, it gets a bit harder, doesn't it?
I was the chubby kid, mate. I'm the one that take 10 kids after grab him.
Yeah, you're the kind of one who would just run over all of us, take the whole team.
I would. So when did you play town team stuff, Tom?
Yeah, I did. It was a funny one because I was playing town team rugby and town team football. But I think because I was into the rugby a bit more than I was the football at the time, I just went through that kind of natural progression really. But I wasn't really. I never really got through to like all the regional camps and all these things that they had, because I was a bit of a late developer. I was quite small, and until I was got to about year 9 or 10, I didn't really grow much. I was quite a small kid. And so I went through that kind of pathway that was there. That was like I was just playing for my club, which was obviously from St Helens Crusaders. Then I went to Pilks Rex, and then so I was just playing with them, and I never really got noticed as anything going from a youngster, to be honest. And I didn't really know where it was going to progress. But I think it was I had a strange injury when I was about 14 or so. And it was like I was basically growth pains essentially, and I was going too quick for my body, and then because I had this massive growth spurt in like year 9, like I said, and I just went from like a small kid and it just went dead lanky and couldn't control my body. And then I got these things called transverse process with your spinal column. You've got like transverse process, the things that come out of your spine.
Yeah.
And where your neurons run down your spinal column. All of them snapped off. Due to growth spurt, and just pulled on it and snapped off, and I just was out for like a year, which is really unfortunate, to be honest. But then after that point, once I had that year off, that's when I got back in, and then I was playing a lot better, and then it got picked up by the Saints outfit once I got back in there.
Right. So before your injury, mate, how was because a lot of listeners and viewers, they'll know the rugby system, so they know if it can be clicky. Was football clicky, or did you find it okay?
Yeah, no, it was. I think there is an element of that kind of clicky in every single sport you go into. But I think it's. I don't know these days. Obviously, I'm about to get my son into sport. He's like 4 now, and
right.
So it's like kind of I'll obviously know a bit more now once I'm watching him go through the system and things. But I think there's always an element of it's like kind of people who you know, but that's the way life is. You want to help your friends obviously through. So I feel like it's not a bad thing. But then if you're good enough, then you'll get noticed. You'll stand out. And then if you put the work, obviously you're good enough, and then you put the work in on top of that, then you'll definitely be picked up no matter who you are. It doesn't matter. You just got to be committed and just got to be focused and keep like doing it no matter what. Even if you get knockbacks, like I got so many knockbacks. Hundreds of knockbacks, and even when I was playing with Saints, still got knocked back every most weeks because you're always you're always playing second fiddle to most of the Aussie lads or whoever. Not tarnishing the Aussie lads because I love the other lads, but I'm just saying you're always going to be as someone coming through. You tend to be look past them, so to speak.
You're a squad player, Tom, aren't you?
Until you prove yourself. Obviously, like it's on your head to prove yourself. So like obviously they give you these chances and stuff and. I don't think at the age I was at and like the confidence at the time, I didn't really put myself. I obviously got into the team and I did all right, but I didn't get myself to the point where I wanted to be at that age. I was only 18 or 19 when I first made my debut. So and I think like because I'd come from a non-rugby background and not have like that kind of the mentor behind me who had been there and done it before. Like I was the first person in the family to play rugby. I was kind of like just playing it as a just off the cuff, and I didn't really know how to go about it. And then once I got into the first team, I was like, once I got dropped again, I didn't respond and react to that how I think I should have done in the second. At the time, I took it as a big, massive heartbreak when I was dropped. And obviously, you should have at 18 years old. You should go, okay, someone else is going to come. You're going to work harder. You're going to go away. And obviously, I did that, but I did take it to heart massively at the time. And obviously, as an 18-year-old, and no one really. At the time was like putting a hand on my back or give me a pat on the back, say, look, just work hard and blah, blah, blah. I think I felt a little bit like I could have done with a couple of mentors around, but there was people around there at the time like who were playing and stuff who did try and help you. But when you're, I found that was kind of a difficulty to understand when you've never been in a professional sport.
In that environment before.
Yeah, 100%.
So how was your transition into high school to start with, mate? And then we'll touch on your high school stuff. How did you find it? And where did you go?
I went to Rainford High, and I didn't play rugby, to be honest, at high school. I did play the odd game and stuff, but because I was like always training, and we were doing like 3, 4, 5 times a week, and then I was playing at college. Well, that was obviously college, but like we're training like 3, 4, 5 times a week, evenings, and then sometimes 2 games on a weekend, depending on what if you're playing for Saints or town team, and then you're playing for your club as well. It was a lot. So then when they're saying, "Oh, do you want to play another game?" you're like, "No, you're killing me. This is not over." But like, obviously, I did play in the schools and school comps, and I wish I had played a bit more because it was you don't really get those experiences where you're playing for the fun of it once you're actually in a professional environment. You do obviously enjoy it. I enjoyed it all the time, and I miss it now. I'm not playing it, but the kind of the element of you're just doing it for a laugh. That's what you get from high school rugby, and I think that I wish I was more.
Yeah, hindsight, mate, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%, mate. Now you're retired.
No, it is. Yeah,
100%.
So it's like effectively school could have been initially why you started playing. Could have been, like you said, as much as you enjoyed being in the service areas, which we'd agree into, wouldn't we, in the academy scholarships and stuff. The element of fun starts getting serious fun, doesn't it? Rather than just you could play like you're a sevens team to a degree at school.
Yeah, exactly that. And there's not as much like I love, like, don't get me wrong, I love training, I love staying fit and everything, and like that's what I do now as a job. But like I obviously do love it, but at the same time, when it's scrutinized like to the nth degree, which you obviously have to do to be a professional, like that won't believe it, you're gonna have to deal with that. But I think that knowing that process before would have been a lot better instead of just going in expecting it to be fun all the time. Where it's not going to be fun all the time. You've got to expect you're going to be
bit of pre-season involved.
Exactly. Well, but the thing is, I like pre-season. I'm a weirdo. Like I enjoyed it. But the thing is, it was just like if something went wrong or something, I just had like I had a little bit of I think it was my ADHD. I only got diagnosed when I was later, but I think it was just like I had this idea that I was just kind of I don't know. I was quite impulsive, and if something went wrong, I was like, why, and I wanted to know why. But then me questioning a lot of whys didn't go down well with some people that were like, you know,
I can imagine.
Didn't go down well. So I needed to maybe have a little someone on the shoulder to say, look, mate, you're only 17, 18, just chill out.
But no, though, that's the beauty, isn't it? Hopefully, the game reach out to people like you that have had to stop a bit early. Well, more than a bit early in your case, and say like, what could systems have done better? Not necessarily Saints, but Wigan might have been able to do better. Witness like teams you've been at, even opposing teams. There's always improvements, mate, isn't there?
Yeah, I think there is. Obviously, like every system has its flaws, and I suppose there's always like a link. There's a loose link in the armour that can be, but at the same time, I think that with the resources that they had at the time and the money that they had to give the players and stuff like that, I do think that it was like, you know, they did well. They did a decent job, and that's me coming from a person who's like didn't do too well in that system. Like, but at the same time, I think now in hindsight, I think like with the limited resources they had at the time that they had with the players that they had, I think it was just a coping mechanism of what they had, what they could do. Because like the backroom staff who we dealt with, like, you know, like the time Derek Trainer, Mike Rush, and basically they're all working for the council at the time, and like, you know, they were doing a second job. I think Mike Rush was full time and stuff like that, but a lot of them were doing second jobs. You know, this was like fun for them as well. Like it was their passion. So now as an adult, I could see that, but at the time I was like, you know, you think it's all about you, but it's not. It's about the bigger picture, and like I'm now can obviously accept that, but as a bit older, a bit wiser. But I think that there could be improvements, I'm sure, but like I'll find out now as I'm getting Atlas into rugby and football, that I'll see if these systems are still any better or not. But I think at the time, the resources they had, like I said, I think they did a decent job, and you know, you can see the crop of players that came through from it, like, you know, Johnny Lomax, Matthias Hurst, all these people that I played with. Like, you know, they've done a decent job, to be fair to them.
Yeah, so they've done something right, yeah. Well, before you got to that stage and that injury we just spoke about, right, you mentioned setbacks and regional stuff and that didn't happen for you, but how did you, as a kid, deal with the setback?
I struggled, mate. I really did. I proper struggled, and I just thought that, like, I think I've always like struggled with disappointment and like not rejection, and getting to a point where like I felt like at times I deserved to be in the regional and I deserved to be in the whatever setups were going on. Yeah, I think there was a couple of times that I was like on the lists and stuff like that, but then it was around the time I was injured, so it was like I understand that, like, yeah, okay, he's half injured, so and I was on the list for like the regionals and the England setup, but then I never played because I was injured. And it's a bit of a story of my life. I look back and I thought I was never injured, but like I had quite a few injuries going through. But then I just had
big ones as well.
Yeah. And then I had a space of like 5 or 6 years where I didn't have one, and I thought, I'm sound. But then it all came crashing down at the end of that.
Right. So that injury, mate, like we've just touched on, for a young lad, is pretty serious, isn't it? So how old are you, Tom?
I'm 33, just turned 33 now, yeah.
Right, so I think you are my age then, so what? Yeah, you are. So
89, yeah.
Yeah, so you and Gary had a similar injury, didn't he, Gaz Wheeler? I think he slipped the disc, didn't he?
Yeah, but did he do it? He did it a bit later than me, I think.
Yeah, I think we were 15, 16 maybe.
Yeah, I was about 13, 14 when I had that back injury.
And your back injury, what you're on about is not only for structure, but it receives messages and that, doesn't it? And things like that. So it's come at a critical age in a rugby development, hasn't it? And how did you cope with that time out and the diagnosis?
I think it was a bit of a struggle because like there was quite a few things that was going on. I had with my foot, they had said I had plantar fasciitis, which now in retrospect I think it was because I was wearing boots that were well too small for my feet. I hated boots that slipped around on my feet, but then I always wore these tight shoes, so I always had like crippled feet. So, but then I had like, so the arch of my foot was kind of like bending and like causing the plantar fascia, which runs along the bottom of your foot. That was always tender and always sore. But then they related it to the fact that I had instability in my hips because of the spinal injury. But I don't know whether it was to do with me wearing all these constricted boots all the time and then not training right and doing the right kind of rehab kind of processes, and then just throwing myself in 100 miles an hour for a game.
Yeah.
And like, obviously, as an adult now, and like as a coach and like a movement kind of a holistic performance coach, I kind of like know as an adult, I'd tell people to, you know, train barefoot and try not to wear tight shoes all the time and try and limit the fact of boot usage as much as you can until, because at the end of the day, you're going to play a game, you're going to play a game in tight boots at all.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to, that's what you do. But try to limit the amount of times that you're wearing shoes that are like crippling your toes and your feet, because it's going to cascade up. Like if you damage your feet, you'll damage your knees, you'll damage your hips, you'll damage your back. But they said to me at the time when I had the scan, you've got a back injury, it's the back. But the problem with the medical industry here, which I found out many times, is that they have they have a reductionist approach to looking at ailments and treating them. So they say, okay, this has happened in your back, so it must be a back injury. So let's treat that back injury. Whereas obviously it could have happened elsewhere, and most of the time it has happened elsewhere. You're all connected from the bottom up and the top down, so it could be something else. It might not just be the fact that that's the point that it's affected down the chain or up the chain, but at the end of the day, it might have been caused from somewhere else. And I think that like a lot of my issues were down to the fact that I didn't train properly and I was young. And when you're young, you don't think you're going to be injured.
No, you're naive, yeah.
You're right, totally. And like I said, learning it from scratch, like obviously my dad was of an older generation when he was growing up, and they didn't really do much in terms of looking after the bodies either.
So after that, mate, you're probably aware you're well spoke of, aren't you? You're this, I don't want to put a label on you, were a bit of a wonder kid. People knew who Tom Armstrong was in the centres and what he could and couldn't do. People were aware. Was you aware of that?
No, not at all. Didn't have a clue. And to be honest, I always looked at the forums and like stupidly when I was younger, and like it just ate me up. Like every time you play a game, like this guy shouldn't be on the pitch. He's not good enough.
It's full of that, mate, isn't it?
I know it's daft, but then knowing that now and like knowing like the troll system, people would probably love the fact that you mentioned that you probably got annoyed by a comment and stuff, and it ate you up. I was that guy. I was that stupid guy. But then once I got a little bit older and started to play like a bit more regularly and stuff, I stopped. It was when I left Saints, really, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because when you're in Saints, and I felt like, I am, a little bit of ideas of grandeur and thought like I would just be cushy and I did all right and I was like scoring okay. But I just, at the time, I was a bit naive and I just thought, yeah, you know what, I'll progress and then we'll, I'll get through it and we'll get into the squad and whatever happens. But and then when it started to fizzle out and things weren't going my way towards the back end of that time of rugby, that was when I was looking at all these forums and stuff and just like it was eating me up, to be honest. And you shouldn't pay attention to it, but you should just be focused. But like now, it's good for people who are coming through and have a bit of a roadmap and like are able to speak to people like myself and people who've been there before and able to then guide them and have a mentor. And I think like having a mentor is like a massive thing that I wish I had looked into or had at the time, because I think it would have made a huge difference to my career, because most of my issues were mental issues.
Okay.
Like the reason I performed bad was because I didn't believe I was going to do well, and I'd listen to people's voices, and then I just I froze up. I'd freeze. I'd completely freeze. Sometimes I was like, what am I even doing? I don't know how to do this game that I've played since I've been 4 or 5. Sometimes it was just mind blank, and it was mainly to do with the fact that I'd been looking at like negative comments or listening to people's beliefs of what I was or wasn't, and like so I just I wish that if I had my time over, I would have definitely got a mentor or someone who would be able to guide you through that side of things, because it's more of a mental game for me than a physical game.
No, it is, and that's something young lads coming through now maybe should look at. If someone like you can openly say, listen, and let's not lie, mate, when we were growing up, we weren't really very big either. Social media, the forums were the big thing. That's where fans interacted, wasn't it? And we didn't have to worry about Instagram and miming people like you to come on. It just weren't there, was it?
No, not at all. Yeah, so I really do feel for the people who are coming through and like haven't got any guidance stuff and if are looking at comments and whatever, then it could be a big deciding factor whether you're going to do well or not.
No, it is. So around that age, mate, was Saint stiffing pretty early for you after that injury?
I seem to have just as soon as I got back after fitness after that year rest. Basically, I was doing loads of physio and stuff, and then I got back and I seemed to just can't remember exactly the timeline, but I remember just we got in, as Pilks got into the we were in like the final of the Northwest final or something, whatever it was, the Lancashire Cup or something. I can't remember what it was, but we'd never been in a final. We were always like the team who were like, we were decent one year, then we were crap the next year, decent one year, crap. It was just like we were so inconsistent. It was weird. But then we had this cup run, and then we just got to the final, and there was that we won the final. I was playing stand up at the time, and we scored a winning try and got man of the match. And then just from there, it was just like that was when I got kind of pulled to the one side. So
growing up then, mate, where positionally was you always a centre then if you played stand off in a big game? No,
I was stand off for halfback. Stand off all the way through my playing as a youngster. I was a standoff, but like I think that was one thing as well that I had a bit of because I'd always played standoff. I enjoyed it, but because there was like Gary Wheeler, there was Lomax, there was loads of people who were like halfbacks, and I was obviously not going to be a halfback. And I was told that early on. He said, "Look, mate, you're not going to be a halfback."
Oh, okay.
And I was like, "Oh, nice one." so like in my head, I was like, "Oh." At the time, I do remember vividly. I was at the. The university that's on the way out, Armstrong, where's that? And we were training there. Edgehill College, we were training there. And I remember like I kept going in at halfback, and I was like training at halfback, and he just went, I won't say it was, but he said, look, mate, you're not going to be an halfback, just do one. And I was like, all right, nice one. So so that like kind of would give me a bit of a knockdown in confidence. Yeah. But then obviously I enjoyed centre. It was mint. It was great. I love playing centre.
So how did I help you with a transition? Do you shadow a senior academy lad, even a first team fella in training? Did he?
A little bit. It was a little. There was elements of that. I think it was called the Jets program that they had at the time, if I remember rightly. And basically, they used to have 1 or 2 days a week where you'd. This is like when I'm in college time.
Yeah.
So there was. They used to have like 1 or 2 days a week where you'd train with the first team at the time, and you'd go and you'd just run drills with them, and then you'd be opposition for them and stuff like that, just to give you a little bit of a feel of what like kind of training was like and stuff like that. And you'd eat with them and stuff like that. So they did have that kind of development through. I don't know what they do now, like obviously, but I know that they did have that kind of Jets program where, if you were like someone with talent coming through, you would kind of shadow the team as a sense. But I mean, like in terms of people who I latched onto was like Matt Gidley, who was just a really good, like a great mentor kind of person. Yeah. He kind of latched onto, and he was always happy to help. He was that kind of person. He was just like such a nice bloke, and he just always like would welcome a question, and would always have time to show you some stuff that he was like obviously great at, and he'd always have time for you, and like so I kind of tried to get under his wing as much as I can, but obviously playing all the time is kind of hard, but he was always one of the ones who was like, always wanting to just give the younger lads a bit of a help. He was a really good bloke.
No, good stuff. So what do you remember about an academy debut? How were you told, and how did you find it at the academy progressing through?
It feels like it does feel like a bit of a blur, to be honest. Yeah. But the academy, to be honest, the academy was like a good. I did enjoy the academy system. We had like at the time there was 18s and 21s.
There was, mate. Yeah.
Yeah. So like we had like almost 2 teams, and sometimes you'd get switched to the 21s if they changed the teams quite a lot. So I ended up in the 21s and the 18s quite a lot, like swapping back and forth depending on where they needed a winger, a centre, or whatever it was. Yeah. So like 1 week you're playing with Kyle as halfback, but then the other week you're playing with Gary, and then it was a good mix of players. There were so many good players there.
Yeah.
But I quite enjoyed the system, and like obviously as Saints 18s we went through like a mad unbeaten run. It was like then we went to kind of like we did the Australia thing, that was like 16, 17, and I just remember that was a good experience. But I was doing my A levels at the time, and I remember getting my mass A levels out on the in the food kind of hall when we were all eating, and everyone was like, "What are you doing?" And everyone's out going to the cinemas, the casinos, whatever they're doing at the time. Yeah. Golfing, I'm there like this, writing away in my maths book, which obviously you need. I'm glad I did it, but I've never even used my degree.
So yeah. what were your options leaving school, mate?
From school or college?
So your options leaving school, was it always rugby, or did you have a bit of a brain switch on, and did you do the college thing as well?
Yeah, I've always done both. That's why it kind of hindered me as well as like helped me kind of thing, because I enjoyed. I think keeping my mind active helped me focus on rugby a bit more, because I'm one of these people, I always have to be doing something. If I'm not doing something, I feel like I'm going mental. So the fact that I had to keep my brain active as well as keep myself physically fit was like that was the combination that helped me do pretty well and progress. But then obviously once it got to university's time and doing a full-time degree and full-time training, that was difficult. That was very hard, and we'll go back to that. But that was a struggle. But after leaving school, I got a good A level. I mean, good GCSEs at the time. Were the GCSEs? Yeah. Got good GCSEs, and I went to Winstanley College and did maths, chemistry, biology, and IT. But then I dropped IT. But yeah, so I did all that alongside of doing like the JETS program. So I've always been juggling many plates.
Yeah. No, because it's a big ask, mate, isn't it, kids? I shouldn't say kids. I'm just talking like we're dead old and we're not. Like the lads and girls coming through now.
Yeah.
It's like, as much as rugby league cares is there, which weren't there when you probably could have done with it a little bit, and all them sort of things, they probably solely channeled in on rugby, aren't they? And that's the side of the thing gets like not even pushed aside, gets binned. And eventually you're going to need something to come back on, Tom, aren't you?
I mean...
And at least you were doing that.
Yeah, I mean, 100% agree that you should always have, multiple avenues to pursue. And like, but in saying that, I kind of wish that I did put all my eggs in one basket, in a sense. I know I've looked at this every which way, and like, obviously I've got a master's in petroleum engineering. I've got qualifications, but at the same time, it hindered me a lot. It hindered my time. And whereas I think, like, I'm not saying that you shouldn't go out and not do anything, because you should keep options open. But I think once I got to a certain age, I should have probably chose what I should do, and then just realised, right, okay, if I want to do this, then I can always go back to education after, which is obviously a different path, and it's difficult, because once I knew myself, because after college, I signed full time with Saints for like 2 years, and then not doing any education for 2 years, and then going back to university. That was absolute nightmare to kind of get back into the education system, and then not only get back into the education system, but start doing university level maths, physics, all these things that were like
the easy stuff.
All like completely foreign to me. I forgot it all. I completely forgot it all. So then trying to hit the ground running to do a basically chemical engineering degree at the time, it was like, what am I doing? Like, I don't know what I'm doing. So then
fully out the swing and that.
Exactly. Playing catch up. And then I wish that I had like kept on with some things as studying a little bit and just keeping my mind active, because I've been doing the 2 years and then like not quite getting to where I wanted to, and then deciding then to leave, because I could have had like kind of a continuation. I could have took like the same contract at Saints and probably just like worked my way back up and just gone back into like the reserve system and come back through, which would have been an option and maybe would have worked out. But at the time I was like, oh well, I've got this. I've done well in my education. I should follow this through. And I was being advised from like family and friends and obviously people around to pursue that. And so I did. And obviously it was around the time that the tuition fee was going up from $3,500 to $9,000. It was the same year. And so I just went, okay, I'll just go for it, and I'll find a pathway back through the divisions below and through the championship, and that was my plan, and that's what I kind of did.
Yeah. So when you're going through the thought process of that, are you very open with the club, and the club are very open with you?
No, not really at the time. No, it was a very. I didn't know where, like. I'm not saying that it was a bad thing or a good thing. I just like, maybe I wasn't vocal enough to ask as well, because as a kid at 18, 19, whatever, I was probably going. I was scared to ask what was going to happen with my contract. I should have been a bit more proactive, and I was worried, and I should have just gone, right, what's going to happen? There's my options. There's this option. Hindsight, like I said, is a great thing, but I think I should have been more prepared, or should have had a counsel to kind of say, look, Tom's thinking about this pathway. What do you think? Whereas it just got to the point where I was like, oh, right, I was applying to universities, and then I just like looked at which courses had vacancies basically. And I just looked at which courses were good for for earnings post career. And I looked at engineering, and then I looked into petroleum engineering. I was like, okay, that one kind of, and just emailed them, missed the application deadline. And the woman, she was Kathy at the time, she was at Manchester University. She was great. She just said, look, yeah, do you want to start next week? And I missed all the deadlines and everything. I just went straight in because of the contract times was like October.
Yeah.
I was leaving it late, and there's the course started in September, and so it was like kind of I was still weighing them both up all the time, and I didn't know I was going to university until I rocked up. You know what I mean? All
right, fair enough. Yeah,
I literally didn't. Yeah. I didn't, because I was thinking, should I do this? Should I do this? And I got there, and I was like, do I want to do this? I didn't really know. I didn't really know for a year really what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And then I just turned up at obviously first lecture, and then I got on the phone to Swinton, and then I was like, are you looking for a player? Like, because I thought I still want to play rugby, but I just went just because I knew that they were in Manchester based. Just said, looking for anyone, like they were buzzing. They're like, yeah, definitely come down. So
right, fair enough. So the thing again, at hindsight, and we've grew up now, and avenues have opened up everywhere. But maybe like an open uni might have even helped you. I don't remember that being about, Tom, to be honest.
No.
When we were growing up. Yeah.
I'm not sure whether there is a system in place still. Like, I'm not quite sure, because tracking forward, when I actually did start playing full time for Lee, and then when I was in university, I was in my third year, and like it was probably the most intense year of uni, third and fourth years. And I had to then, I was struggling. I nearly left university. I was like suffering like mentally, like I had loads of issues. And then I was like, there was the sports scholarship program. I spoke to them, and luckily the woman there, she was amazing. She like basically timetabled my day from 5 a.m. in the morning when I used to get up to 10 o'clock at night, literally, and itemized everything I needed to do and put it into order and just structured my whole day. And then I then spoke to Paul Rolls at the time, and then was able to then work a system a little bit like a WhatsApp group before WhatsApp was open, but just like an email thread, and attach everyone in, so that if I knew that my lecturers knew that I was leaving lectures at 3 to go to train, and then they knew that like the training, all the lads weren't going, where have you been, you're late, kind of thing, because I dealt with that as well, like what you doing, what you trying, who do you think you are, kind of thing. People giving you comments that why are you going to university, why are you playing rugby all the time, where are you training daily every day, and you're coming and still getting in the team, why are you so special? And you get that a lot. And so then I had to manage that by getting roles and getting the backroom staff and on board with me, because it was just like eating me up. Because one of the worst things for me is like your peers like not respecting you, and like I felt like I'm only trying to like get an education at the same time, and I'm getting some, obviously not all the lads, obviously there's a few, but like you still get a few whispers, and you think, oh God, why? Like why isn't the coach, or why don't they just tell everyone that this is what's going on? And so like I had to work this plan out, and then it ended up being a great system. And like even to this day, I hold my hat off to the Sports Manchester, Scholarship Manchester. I still work for Scholarship Manchester on the advisory board, but I take my hat off to them, and then obviously to liaise with roles at the time. And you know, we made a system that works, and I ended up that year, you know, we won the league, and I was like named in the 10-year team of Leaf, you know, so it did work, and it can be worked, but I'm not sure whether there is that put in place now for current people who want to do both, because it's not for everyone, like you said, just going, let's just do rugby and like forgetting everything else. It's not for everyone. Like I want to keep my options open, but it was difficult. I'm not sure if that's been rectified nowadays. I'm sure there will be better ways to do it, but I'm not sure if there's an actual way.
Because whether we like it or not, mate, players, without being rude, are just commodities. It's a business, isn't it? The minute they've had what they need from you, I wish I knew that as well at the time. Yeah, sorry, mate. No, but it is, isn't it? Like, unfortunately, you've learned the hard way a little bit, and like players now, girls, boys, whoever, they need to know that it can be fickle, Tom, can't it? And 1 minute you're a superstar, the next minute you're on dual red, someone at the arse end of nowhere.
And I know that, but I know that from the rest. I can tell. Like, because like when I ended my career, I was injured and I was just told to leave, and that was it. Like, I was injured, and I just
didn't even get a tankard, probably, did you?
I had to leave my contract because I was injured. I was like, what? Anyway, we ended up getting that sorted, but at the same time, it was just like, really, like, what am I meant to do? Like, and so yeah, it was like you can just drop. But at the same time, I kind of empathise with that. I understand now. I have a business. I understand that you can't just pay someone for not being there. But obviously, there's contractual agreements to say that you're not allowed to. If you're being injured, you need to be looked after. Like that was bad form by them. But at the same time, I understand the business side of things now as well. And you are just a speck in the ocean when it comes to the club's longevity. You're not in their 20-year plan. Let's face it. You know.
Yeah. No. You come in. It's been there long before you. It'll be there long after you. Exactly. Hopefully, isn't it? Yeah.
And I think that you should know that as well as a player, because then you can take it as a pinch of salt when you get dropped and stuff. And it's not like the worst thing in the world. You'll get back in, and there might be people who come in your place, but then you can, if you work hard enough and you're dedicated enough, you'll get back in. Simple.
Yeah. So you mentioned Swinton, mate. So is that somewhere you had to, so you mentioned you reached out yourself. So did you generally just ring someone up and say, listen, this is my situation and I'm keen?
Yeah, I think I've made a few calls to like agents at the time and stuff, and like the whole representation thing was just like, I felt like they had about 20 people, and like it was just ended up, well, hundreds of people, and it just ended up being like they're just taking a bit of a cut for you doing the work kind of thing. So I just thought I'll just send a few messages, and like I can't remember, it was just a friend of a friend just said, "Oh, have you tried Swinton?" And I was just like, "No, I haven't." I'll just give him a message, and they were like, "Yeah, there's the number. Ring the coach." I think it was McCormack at the time as well, and he just said, "Yeah, let's go for it." And yeah, I ended up enjoying it there. It was great. It was just a couple of days a week training, and then playing a game, playing at the weekends, and they just got promoted, so they weren't expected to do well. And we ended up, finishing, I think, middle of the table, and it was like,
And when you're playing that level, mate, are you realising you're capable? Or are you still listening to them the odd naysayer?
No, I think the fact that I'd kind of resigned myself to the fact that this was like kind of, because I was doing education, it felt like that year where I was deciding whether or not I was going to go into education or carry on full time and go and battle it out in the trenches kind of thing for like pennies. I was like, is that what we're going to do? And then I made the decision to go through education, and then it was almost, I was playing with Swinton for fun again, and I really enjoyed it. I started to play some good rugby, and like obviously the team at the time, obviously wasn't the best team on the whole, but like all the lads dug deep for each other, and we all had a good laugh. It was a good group of lads, and I just started to play a little, like a bit of not really caring again. I started to play pretty well, and like on the back of that, I had some really good games against the top teams. Played well against like the likes of Lear, like the likes of Fev, and the likes of Sheffield at the time, and we ended up getting man of the match a few times, and was one of the top try scorers in their team, and then just got pulled by Sheffield then, because of obviously my performances throughout the year.
Yeah. So how did you find the standard of like playing first team at Saints, which we've gone past, but your life's took you past Saints at this point? So did you play in a derby,
Tom? Wigan.
Yeah.
I think I was on the bench, and we didn't get on because I was on the bench at Nosey Road, and I remember now we was I never got on. I was going, I was fuming because
I bet you was.
I was absolutely fuming, and it was a tight game, like, and they didn't use all the subs, and I was cover for the backs, and no backs basically. And so they just didn't put me on, but I was like, I remember being there. The atmosphere was class and stuff. It was absolutely throwing it down. I think Longy got the drop goal. I think it was like last one of the last seconds of the game. Got a drop goal from like halfway line. It was like absolutely peeing it down, battering down, I think. And I can't remember, but it was a good game. But
you got a win bonus, mate.
I think we did. Yeah, I think we got a win bonus at the end.
Mr. Taxman, I didn't Mr. Taxman. So how is it going from? Like, let's not be rude. So not being rude to Swinton. It's elite, isn't it? And then you come in.
To be honest, to be quite honest, the standard. I know I say this quite a lot, but the standard isn't. It's for me. It wasn't necessarily the standard there's quite a few good individuals. The standard on average when you drop down gets a little bit worse, but that comes down to fitness. That comes down to not training every day. That comes down to a little bit of strength. That comes down to a little bit of perseverance. That comes down to money. So like as a whole, those lads all came from like the Wiggins and like and like came from all like decent, systems. So they were all like half decent players, and it was just more the thing that I found was the fitness level. Really, just like the back end of games, you'd see that like the back end of each half, people weren't as fit, and that was generally but people were a lot more aggressive and a lot tougher. There was a lot more scrappiness. There was a lot more
dark arts and stuff.
Yeah, there was, and I felt like it's not an easy transition for anyone really. And I think like if you can make your name in the championship, you're still doing well for yourself. And then if you get into the team of the year and stuff like that, which I've got into like a few times, and you know that you're doing all right there, because it's a tough league. It's just that there's not the fitness level. Like when you when you start to go through the cup rounds and you get to like your quarterfinals with like the likes of Saints or Wiggins or whoever it was, that's when it's like you can notice the difference. It's not necessarily the team as a whole. It's just the fact that you have the odd individual who potentially isn't not their faults. Like we're not training full time.
Yeah. Just the way it is.
Yeah, just the way it is. They might have they've got another job, and they've got the kids to pick up and drop off. So like it is what it is. But like sometime, and then the good teams would notice who the weak links were, and then they'd pepper them, and then you'd get breaks and back ends of each half. That's when you notice like that's when the points come in. But in terms of standard, the fundamentals were not too far off, but it's just like the polishing things at the very end, like the slick passes or like the consistent
and the set finishing and stuff.
The set finishes, kicking to repeat sets and all these things, and like making repeat sets, turnovers, dropouts, all these things were just little tiny things that like add up at the end of the game.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that far off. Like if people think it's like this massive chasm, it's not actually that big. It is, but it's like
fitness and speed, basically.
Fitness, speed, and a little bit of finishing your sets right and game management, basically.
Because what a lot of us don't realise, especially me growing up, you might not know because you were in a system, but you don't understand why championship players, some of the outstanding ones, aren't playing Super League, but fundamentally it's because they won't pay them what they'll get with the two jobs.
That is it, yeah. That's a big
Isn't it, mate? And you don't realise growing up, you think you should want to play it, but if it doesn't work out for paying your house and your kids and feeding them and clothing them, doesn't work, does it? So
that is a big factor, and obviously I think it's a bit of a shame, like, because obviously there is a lot of players who probably deserve to have been the Super League. Quentin Lolotagi, IQLT, used to play with Sheffield. He was awesome. Like he was class, and he could have easily played Super League. I think he did for Casper for a bit. But
he gave it a go, didn't he?
At the back end of his career, but it was never right for him. Like because he was working, earning, playing full time, and then had a coaching job as well at the time. So he had like multiple streams of income kind of thing coming in for playing part time. But then to go and take a massive pay cut, and then because they still think, we'll give you a chance. But like obviously he would have been good enough if you at the right age. But it's just one of them that like he just didn't really fit for him in his lifestyle. But it'd be great if Rugby League had a bit more money so that he could give people a bit more chance, or pay the younger lads at least a base level wage that they do in Australia, where you can be comfortable to pursue rugby full time instead of always thinking I can do other stuff, like make money basically. But
I like that about the Aussies actually. You can't underpay someone, can you? They just don't allow it. Yeah, I like that. So when the move comes round to Sheffield, mate, what factors are there for you to make a move, and how does it come about? Do you approach them? Are you still repping yourself at this point?
No, I had. Who did you have? I had an agent at the time, and he ended up. But what I did though, like I got an agent, but I put a DVD together. I spoke to Swinton and said, "Look, can I have all my games?" I knew I was going to leave because obviously I had a few people messaged me say like, "Oh, do you want to play for X, Y, Z?"
Yeah.
And I just said, "Can I get all my games together?" Because I still wanted to put it out there to some Super League teams, but obviously it didn't work out at the time. But I put like a little DVD together and like sent it to my agent at the time. I can't remember which one it was. But either way, we ended up getting in contact with Sheffield, and I ended up going. He invited me down. Tubbs invited me down for to watch their grand final, because they were in the grand final that year. And he invited me down to they were playing at Warrington, and he invited me down to watch the game, and then spoke to him afterwards, and he just went, "Do you want to come sign for us?" Logistically, to drive to Sheffield, in retrospect, it was a nightmare. But made some top mates there. It was a good set of lads, and yeah, really enjoyed my time there. I've still got some lifelong mates from Sheffield. It was a really good experience there. But yeah, getting over Saints Pass and Woodhead Pass after 3 o'clock at uni over the it was a nightmare.
Sounds like a dream. Yeah, so when you're making these business ends of the season award, the ceremonies, and you're seeing the similar names from, no offence to Sheffield, slightly bigger clubs, and is there always that intent to make that step, mate, regardless of uni happening? And
yeah, but doing try and get back to Super League.
Yeah, and there's a stepping stone, without being rude to Sheffield. They're probably a top 6, is maybe a top 3 club in your plan, and then.
Yeah, but like at the time, Sheffield had just won the league, so they just won the championship. Obviously, they weren't. They come from like 6th to win, and then but then they signed well, and then we won again that year when I was there, and so you had like players like Menzieri and like QLT. And Missy Talipapa and people like that, and we had a good side. Don Brambini, we had a decent side, and it was a good little team. But like I said, they weren't necessarily the top 4 in that league. It was like Featherstone, Lee, Halifax at the time, I think, and they were in. Sheffield were in there. But anyway, then we ended up winning the league again, and then from that, then I was like. But then we played. I got signed by Lee, and that's when I got settled in there, because then I knew that it was a good roles are just at the time roles were like player coach. And when I played with roles when I was on loan, because I went on loan at Lee when I was at Saints for 6 months.
Yeah.
And so I played with like a few of the players who were like coaching and stuff like that. I was like, and Robbie Paul was still there, I think. It was a mad little transitional period.
Yeah.
But so Rolls, I played with him, and then he was like coaching, and so he said, "Oh, do you want to come sign with us?" Obviously, we just won the league that time with Sheffield, and we did well in the cup. So we got to the quarter final of the Challenge Cup, and we lost to London. So we had a good cup run as well, and I was doing well. And Rolls just picked up the phone to me and said, "Do you want to sign for us?" And bits off his hand, because more the fact that I didn't have to drive an hour and a half every day.
Yeah, so and again, it's an offer you can't really refuse, isn't it? Because you're still at uni at this point. Did you mention before?
Yeah,
you've got a lot going on.
Yeah. So I was in my 3rd year, so there's still another year and a half left to go, basically, of a 4-year master's degree. So it was like, and then obviously signing professionally, it was like, how do we work this out? And then, like I said, that's when it all started to be like, it got a bit too much for me, and I was like, how do I work this out? Because I didn't really speak. I should have obviously said to Rolls like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I'm going to be doing a full-time degree." I did say it briefly, but I didn't say how much went into
it. Yeah.
I didn't know. I don't think that obviously people don't understand what kind of goes into a full-time master's in engineering or a full-time in anything. Like you're in lectures from 9 a.m. till 5, like every day, and then you've got coursework, then you've got homework, then you've got things to, coursework to do, and go on field trips, for instance. Like I had to go on certain field trips that I was away for a week from the camp. Do you know what I mean? That didn't go down well with some people, but at the time I was like, look, I've got to do my dissertation. I've got to be away for a week. I can't do anything else. I've asked if I could. I had to go to Sunderland at the time. So I drove up to Sunderland, drove back for a game, and drove back to do the thingy. So I had to do my to collect all the data that I had to do for my dissertation. So it was hard work. It wasn't easy. One day wasn't easy, but then like I said, we got a planning system in place. Because at first, like I said, I don't think that Rolls or the staff understood what went into the course or what went into a full-time degree. But then once I told him, and once my lectures and everyone was in like an email thread, once they all knew, and then he's like, right, I kind of get how much is going on and going into this. So
Yeah.
We'll do our best to help you, and then once you finish your degree, then you can, sign full time and be with us full time, which is obviously what I did.
Yeah, and he'd have been more than happy with you. Once you're with Lee, you're fully with Lee.
Yeah.
Once you're aware, you need to go and do what you're doing.
Yeah.
And at least again, you had the balls to stick to what you believed in and done both, mate. You know what I mean? And banged a bit of mileage on the car as well, by the
Just a bit.
Yeah. So how did the spell go at Lee, mate? And what were the standout moments from Lee for you?
Well, Lee for me was it was the best 2 years of my life. I don't know how long was there in the end, but yeah, it was the best 2 years of rugby that I've had, and I really felt like I was back to you're enjoying the rugby days. It was because obviously at the time Rolls it was his kind of first coaching job, and he's just come out of playing for Lee, and he got all the right lads involved. We were all the oldest was like 20. I think Bob Bezic was 28 or something at the time. I think he was the oldest, or 27. He was the oldest player, and Bob was like, he was classy. He had so much engine on him. He could just go forever anyway. So he didn't look to us as a 29-year-old anyway. And basically, we were all like 24 and paid a similar wage. We were all paid like similar, and everyone knew there wasn't much going on in terms of variance of wage. Obviously, there was going to be
bits here and there,
here and there, but it wasn't massive, and we all kind of knew that. And we didn't lose a game for almost 2 seasons, which is absolutely unheard of. And obviously, the only time that it started to change was obviously when the club wanted to progress, and then saw fit to sign a few big names. It kind of really upset the apple cart at the time, and we lost our first game when we signed. We signed Mickey Hyman. We signed who else was it? Gazok. Signed Mickey Hyman, and we lost our first game in 2 years. I think it was more not because they came in and played. It was more because I think the atmosphere just changed overnight. It was like going, all right. But again, I understand the reasoning behind it. But I think it was just managed wrong. I think one day we're training, the next day there's two new lads at training, and we're like, "Oh, we've done wrong," kind of thing. I think it could have been. We've not lost for 2 seasons. It could have been managed a little bit better, but it is what it is. In order to progress, you have to get other players. You have to get a bigger squad, but it should have probably been told to us that we're gonna recruit. We're going to get bigger squads. Don't fret over it. Don't worry about it. Blah 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 blah. Those kind of conversations, kind of management things that should have been done. But it was a young backroom staff, it was a young outfit, and I don't think that they thought through that it was going to affect the boys how it did. And obviously, things started to transpire, and wheels started to fall off from that kind of those 2 years of. It was just everyone had each other's back. It just felt like everyone just knew what everyone was doing. Everyone was singing off the same hymn sheet. There was no questions. It was just like we're down 24-0 at Wakey at quarterfinals, and we came back and won 26-24 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
The biggest turnaround I think it was in Challenge Cup history. At half time, 24-0 down, and we ended up winning 30 points to 24. I think it was. Yeah. So and when we were in that change rooms at half time, we was all looking at each other, and there was no doubt in anyone's eyes. I could see that everyone was focused, we're down, but we'll win this game. It was one of them. I didn't ever feel like losing there. It was weird.
Yeah.
Such a good thing. So it was such a good feeling to be around as well, and the atmosphere and all the boys there. It was I absolutely loved it there. Even though
that doesn't happen if it's good, Tom, does it?
No.
Yeah. There's not the buy-in from everybody, your bench players, your players that aren't fit. If they're not doing their job through the week for you and then prepping you for your week, it doesn't happen. So was the Challenge Cup something you enjoyed, Tom? Did it feel special to you, or? Yeah.
Any I was one of them players. Any big game, you just end up finding another gear. You end up just there was just
you have gears. Where'd you get them from?
you just literally you find something to. You're on TV. You don't usually get on TV all the time. In Championship, you had like a Thursday night game, and you had a few games, stuff like that. But you buzzed off it. Obviously, you putting yourself at the time. You're testing yourself against people who are Super League, and when you're coming out on top, we had a few good cup runs when you're coming out on top, and you're playing better than your opposite number, and you're doing. You know that okay, I'm all right here. I'm not too bad. It's a chance to test yourself, and when especially me at the time, I'd been away from Super League for 4 years at the time, and I was like, right, this is my chance to test myself again properly. And yeah, it was. I really, really enjoyed the big occasions.
You were fully fit in that, mate. Yeah, so you knew you were more than capable, sort of thing.
Yeah. Buzzing, like that. But the back end of that kind of career, that's when I ended up having these cascade of issues, and it all started. I'll try and piece it together, but it all started when I'd moved into a new house from moved out of my student kind of accommodation. I just met my wife now, and we moved into a house, and I've got a gene that I'm an allergy to mold, HLA-DR gene. Right, but I didn't know this at the time, and I moved into a house, and there's like black mold in the corner of like one of the rooms, like the bathroom.
Yeah.
Anyway, I moved into this house. I was in there, and then I noticed after about 3 to 4 months, I started to feel like a lot darker, anxious, stressed. Loads of things started to go wrong. I made a few weird decisions in my life, in my career. I made a few strange. Like I just didn't feel myself. I was starting to get really bad joint pain in my knuckles, and I've dislocated a lot of my fingers. But it started to become like really intense. Like I couldn't even like grip, and it was really strange. And then I started to forget people's names, stupid things like I didn't know what a fork was. Like it was stupid. Like, Dave, what's that? Passes that. Then I was like, I couldn't.
Are you clicking onto it though, Tom? Or?
At the time, no. So this is like I didn't understand. It took me almost. How long was there? 4 years I was in that house. So it took me like 4 years to get out, but like all around this time, like a cascade of negative, unfortunate events started happening. And I was doing really well. I was in the top. Like I said, I got named in the 10-year team for Lee, the team of the decade in the centres, and I was buzzing, and like I got approaches from a few top clubs, Saints and Wigan and Warrington, I think at the time. And it was at the back end, and I came and I went over to the powers that be at Lee, and manned up and had a conversation. And just thought they might say, do your best, have a go. And they kind of vetoed me from doing that. But in retrospect, I should have probably just kind of took it on the chin and gone, like I said before, the club's bigger than you, and just. I had 1 year left on my deal, and I should have just dug in and just gone for it. But I was making some irrational decisions, and I'm not saying that it's 100% this, but now I know that I have got this allergy, and due to this gene, this mutated gene that I've got, which one in like something like 20% of the population have this gene. So it's like it's not actually uncommon. Yeah. So I started to have these weird things and making some bad decisions. And at the time, I started to once he said no, I had like started to get really depressed and anxious. So I just went into my shell and went into a massive hole. Like I said, I've obviously touched on the fact that I had a few issues mentally growing up as well. So like it kind of just all seemed to snowball. And like I ended up taking time off rugby because I was ill. And obviously that didn't go down well with the powers that be at Lee. Yeah. And then I found myself in this position where I'm like feeling isolated, but I was like, I brought it on myself almost, because I was like, I was giving myself an hard time. Obviously, I was feeling down, feeling low, but then I should have just cracked on. But I was making some daft decisions, and I don't know why I was doing it. And then I started to get these like weird brain fogs, and I was just going into this darker place. And then my joints started to ache, like I was saying, my knuckles, my knees, and my hips. And that was where the start of this chronic back and hip pain started. And I just never got back to the full fitness that I ever was. Never did. And then I signed for Widnes the next year, and all these things were still happening. And I had to, like, if you speak to some of the lads at Widnes, like I'm still mates with Gil Dudson and Lloyd White and stuff like this, and I speak to them, and they're like, "God, you were speaking to you now. You're a different person." I was like, "I'm back to what I used to be." Those 2 years of rugby were like, I wasn't the same person. I was just doing stupid things. Like I just don't know who it was, and I was scared of my own shadow. It was so weird. Yeah. I was like a shell of myself, and I lost so much weight. And it was just that was just the beginning of the end. And going back to the finding out. That's why I started my company, True Athletic Fitness, and like I do gut analysis and gut testing now to help people with like who have certain issues like that might be undiagnosed and might be told. Because I was told by 10 doctors almost that I needed my gallbladder removed because I had these gut spasms because of the mold. So it was building up in my system, causing me to have leaky gut, IBS, all these kind of things. Dead strange list of symptoms that you couldn't say that it was one thing or another. But then, because I had a family history of gall issues, like my granddad and my nan, they had the gall removed. So they're like, right, let's get your gall removed. I said, I can't, like, why do you want to take something out of my body? I just don't get it. Like, they can't be that. It's not, that doesn't feel like this is what it is. I was having all these allergies, like I said, and I started to get asthma again. Like I had it as a kid, and then started to get the asthma. And I couldn't sleep upstairs. I had to sleep downstairs on the couch. It was just going crazy. And then that's why, like I said, I started the company, was because I had to do my own blood test. I had to do my own stool tests and gut analysis, and I found different doctors across the country and stuff to help me facilitate this. And then once I found out that that's what I had, and like I had, and there was a way out of it, which was basically move house and to get out of that environment, and then also take a lot of these basically, it's like activated charcoal and zeolite, like different kinds of compounds that absorb toxins within your gut, and then help repair it by taking oregano oils and just basically eating low mycotoxin free diet, which is basically no coffees, grains, nuts, seeds, anything that might be stored in a silo that can generate molds. And so I had to, for like 6 to 8 months, once I moved to now live in Lytham, once I was in this house for 6 to 8 months, I was like, oh, I'm back to normal. But that whole process and why I ended up having the hip operation, maybe that was linked as well. But I had because at the time I was advised to have a hip operation. This is when I went to Toronto, because I just kept having these pains within my lower back and like my glutes, and like I had like groin pain in both sides. And then they scanned me and said like, oh yeah, you've got inflammation in both sides, but the inflammation can be linked to chronic inflammatory response syndrome due to the gene that I've got a faulty gene for. So I don't know now whether, because my right hip was just as bad as my left hip, but they operated on my left hip, and then that was it then. I've been in pain ever since, and I've obviously 5-6 days ago now, had the bone removed. I've actually brought the bone, if you know.
No, it is. So we'll talk about your social handles later, but that's not small, mate, is it?
No, it's 4 centimeters worth of bone just pulled out. So like I said, so that's there from the last operation, because obviously the last operation failed. He tried to like cement fill my labrum with this kind of material, and then that had broken off in rehab. And I knew something had happened, and then ultimately around that time I had to retire because of this problem. But then I had no healthcare, private healthcare. So then over the years of training and doing stuff repetitively, that's just been calcifying in my joints. So it was just agony. And then I managed to develop a set of like training techniques and systems, and like a low mycotoxin diet, low inflammatory diet, which is now what I do with my company. And I kind of developed this programming to alleviate a lot of stress. I ended up doing ultramarathons, ended up doing triathlons, ended up doing all these things with this in my joint. But I found a way around it, if you know what I mean. But it was always in pain. But I found a way around it. And like up until 6 days ago, 5 years later after the surgery, that I've actually got this thing removed. You're
a free man.
Yeah, I'm a free man.
What's mad is you're doing all them events, because we're going to go back a little bit, because obviously such
I digress.
No, but it's such like a mad 5 or 6 years for you, because it is. There's no beating around the bush in it. Oh. You've probably become accustomed, and almost to a certain degree, you've probably enjoyed that little bit of pain, because it's just a part of you. And then all of a sudden now, hopefully you're going to be pain free, and you're going to have to get used to a new older Tom.
I know, it's mad. It is mad. Yeah. It's like that. If you're living with pain, or like you just get so used to it that you kind of like feel like, oh, is that why is you start to believe that you're making it up in a way. Like, you get to a certain point where you think, okay, I'm able to do ultramarathons, I'm able to do triathlons. I'm sore afterwards, but is that just a normal sore? Is that just my knees swollen, my hips a little bit sore? But is that just because you just ran for a lot of exercise? But obviously it wasn't. But like, you start to convince yourself, because there was no proof apart from the fact that I felt wrong. I didn't feel right. Yeah. I had scans afterwards, and there was like a time that on the scan looked like a little speck. Tiny. It was tiny, and he went, oh, a few consultants said maybe it is something, maybe it isn't. But do we want to open you up and see if it's something? And for years I just was on a waiting list and just put it off, because I started to think that, oh no, I'm actually all right now. But I just the other day it came up, and the guy was like, last week he rang me and just said, look, there's an opening. The consultant at this time, he was awesome, Dr. Bonshar. He was brilliant, and he just said, "Look, I do think I can help you out here. Do you want to try it?" And then I was like, "Yeah, go for it." And afterwards, when I came out of anaesthetic, he was like, shook me out of me. He was like, "I don't believe that was in there," but he had to slice open my leg a bit bigger to get it out because he couldn't get it out with the keyhole. Mad.
It's mad because you've probably half started believing. I don't want to talk for you, but maybe that you're a bit of a hypochondriac.
Yeah, that's what you start to think, am I really sore? Am I really in pain? Have I really got a problem? But I think that's a good way, and your body's amazing at adapting and getting over fear, getting over pain, and getting used to it. Your body's amazing and then your mind believes yourself that no, you're okay, and that's a coping mechanism of getting through and just living your life instead of worry. If the thing is, I think that's my mindset as well. If I was worrying about it, and I wouldn't train, I would have been stationary, not moving as much. My joints would have atrophied. I wouldn't have started doing all these movement programs that I did in order to like alleviate make some more room within the joint. And I probably would have had an unhealthy joint. And the doctor said, considering that was out there, he doesn't know how my joint isn't completely destroyed. But obviously, like I said, I do the coach. I do red light therapy every day, and I can do all things like cold water therapy, and I practice these things and I teach them to people because if a surgeon, it works, and a surgeon said to me, he said literally, I don't know how you've not got no joint left completely, but it looks quite healthy considering. Right, so
happy days. So we'll touch a bit more on the red light and the cold water therapy later, Tom, if that's all right. Yeah. So when you come to witness, mate, you weren't in the best place now.
No, definitely wasn't. No, I'm sure I apologise to anyone who I offended. Because I just wasn't myself, and I think people know, if they know who I am and know me, then they'll know that just wasn't me. That was definitely a different version of me who was just very I was quite snappy. I'm not like that. I'm a chill guy really in general, and I just turned into someone who just was always thinking people were talking about me, and I was just quite paranoid and started to just abuse my body, started to drink alcohol a lot too much, and you wouldn't look at me and think I had a problem, but I definitely had a problem at the time, and I had a problem after rugby as well. But now I don't drink, and stay sober as much as I can.
Machine now.
Yeah, no, you have to though, and that you become, because you start to realize that it's not just the one day that it affects you. It's like you don't do the things that you want to do. You're not doing the business duties that you want to do. You're not being the right guy around your family. You're not being the person that you want to be. So then, although I wasn't like this raving alcoholic who was like a crazy person who'd wake up in the morning and whatnot, I knew that it was affecting my life enough to make me feel guilty about what I was doing. So I was just like, okay,
it's not right then, is it?
It wasn't right for me. In my head, it wasn't right. But people, I've spoken to people at the time, and like around that period, who was in AA, and a few people who were like who were full-on alcoholics, and they said, you've not got an issue. Like a lot of them said, you don't got a problem, mate. If you can manage to balance things, you don't got a problem. But my balancing to their balancing
is very different.
So like,
that's a good way of putting it, that, mate.
Yeah,
it's a good way of putting it. So I didn't send you this question, and if you don't want to answer, I understand. But if you're feeling like that outside of home, would you like that at home? And how did everything work at home?
In terms of,
so did you ever feel you'd put the missus under enough pressure to not so, but she clearly has, and she's great for doing it, and a lot of people could have walked away, and I think you half understand that as well. Like, I'm only getting to know you now, and you're not a soft lad.
No.
Like, did the home life ever get that bad where you felt like you were on your own, or did you always know she was there for you?
No. My missus Danielle, she's absolute diamonds. Like, so we met, and one of them clicked up, and I was married. I asked to marry me within 6 months. We're married in a year, had a baby within 2. It was like, it's just like one of them kind of things.
What a guy!
I know, I know. And she just got me, and anything that anything troubles or problems I bring home, she just always like support me.
How amazing and beautiful is that, mate?
Yeah, she's great. Honestly, awesome. And can't speak high enough of it. But at the same time, she didn't really know how much of a problem I had. Do you know what I mean?
Because you were good at it, yeah.
I was good at hiding it. I had like loads of demons, and I was because of my ADHD, I started to abuse ADHD medication, which is a class A drug.
Yeah.
So I had it after rugby. I started a gym with an ex, I won't say his name, but ex player of mine who was a friend at the time. And around that time, I was losing my mind really, and I was taking these medications to wake up because I was drinking too much at night, and then getting up at 5 a.m. to do classes, and then obviously taking these medications, and then taking pain relief as well because my hip was always in pain. So I was taking this cycle of things, but like no one really knew because I was like high functioning because I was taking ADHD medication most of the time. So I was like staying up late, getting up early, but taking these uppers and downers, and and I was losing my mind really.
Yeah.
And around the time, Dan was diagnosed with cancer, cervical cancer, and I had a newborn baby. Wow. And so it was like all these things were just spiraling out of control, and I was just like, and we got to remember that I'm still feeling this like pain from the brain fog going insane because I'm in this house, but I didn't know what was going on. I just knew that I wasn't right. And then this was like a perfect storm of like trying to make someone insane, and I was adding to it by drinking and taking amphetamines. So it was like but I didn't know, and not really many people were there around me tell me, but I was like, obviously I could speak to Danielle, but I didn't want her to tell her that I was losing my marbles.
Yeah. Because especially when she's going through that as well.
Exactly. So she was ill, and I didn't want her to go. I didn't want to go. Oh yeah, by the way, I've got this issue. Like it wasn't an issue. The main point for me was to get up and go to work, get some sort stuff out, and then look after her. That was it. So like I didn't want to look weak to her. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Sorry, because the reason I do the podcast, mate, is to show the person behind the player. The game is the game, but you are who you are with or without it. For me, and I originally done it to show the team that I grew up playing with because of lockdown and stuff to expose their lives, because the Saturday's just their hour and a half of fun, or like a match day would have been for you. But stories like that people won't appreciate, won't understand, generally won't know. And you still went about your business, you're still together, you're thriving, you're smashing life, both of you. It's great to see it. The people need to know that, not necessarily your story, but they need to know that's what you go through, because they don't see you Monday to Friday, mate. They see you on a Sunday and then give you crap on a forum.
Exactly.
But it is, isn't it, mate? It's real. I hope you don't mind me saying that, but
no, not at all. Yeah. And I don't think it's like I'm similar to you. Like I like to know like people's like kind of stories, and I like to know that like and I know that everyone has, no matter what, if you're a high level performing athlete or you're not, you're just the average Joe. You've probably got some kind of story that you've gone through to get to where you are, because you've lived a life of X amount of years, so you probably have gone through some challenges, and you're gonna have to overcome adversity. And you can either go one or two ways. You can either go, right, okay, I'm gonna have a chip on my shoulder and go the other way and like let drug abuse or alcoholism or just I don't know, whatever you choose a vice, whatever it is, gaming, sex addiction, whatever it is, just choose a vice and go down that path of debauchery and just choose to do that, or find a way out of it. And then obviously I've dipped my toe in that kind of life and gone, you know what, this isn't what I want to be. It's not who I want to be as a person. And I found a way out of it, obviously just through knowing that I wasn't living up to the standard that I wanted to be as, a father, a husband, and as a man.
No, that's well put, mate, and fair play. So it could have been any team, but it was witnessed that it fundamentally you were at when you were feeling bad, mate. Was there an arm put round you? And having you offered, or?
No. But at the time, I wouldn't. To be honest, I wouldn't have given me an arm. Do you know what I mean? Like I was that probably hard to deal with at the time, and like anyone who probably did like dangle an olive branch to me, I throw it back in the face, because I thought people were out to get me. Like I was in a really weird mindset, and I just thought that like the whole world was out to get me, and it's a shame, because like I felt that year was the darkest kind of time of my life, and then I probably would have done with someone genuinely come around, but I couldn't see a genuine approach. I felt like it was there was always a connotation of kind of you trying to back
something behind it.
And I just couldn't see light through day. Like I couldn't weigh it up, and that's just not me. I'm usually pretty good at weighing up a situation. I just felt like I couldn't deal with the whole the whole environment, the stress. And then as soon as I tweaked my knee on the pitch, the rubber pitch.
Yeah.
I played like the first 12 games, I think, and I was doing decent. I had like most meters in the Super League at the time, and I was doing all right. And then I just did my knee, and that was it. From then on, I just did my knee, and then I thought, right, I'm done.
Yeah.
Mentally, I was gone.
Right, because it's nothing against witness, but surely they'd have done due diligence on your character from other clubs. I'm guessing that's what clubs do. We'll never know the background, will we? But
I don't know.
And they wouldn't have said that because you said it yourself. They wouldn't have said that was you.
No.
And then they're seeing your behaviour patterns because your performance, by all accounts, is living up to what we all know you're about. But they see you Monday to Friday. They should know if they've done their own work on you, which I'm guessing clubs do. Like I said, no, this on witness, it could have been anyone. And to see you different, surely there should have been something.
Yeah, I'm sure
because you said it yourself, didn't you? It weren't you.
No, it definitely wasn't me. But because it's coming up to that, at that time, it was coming up to like a year of feeling like this. So then I thought, is this just me? Have I gone through a lot of stress? Because I was being told by doctors that you've just got you're going through so much stress, and like I believe that, but because they were just saying like, look, we're going to put you on antidepressants, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, because you've got your family situation, and you've just lost a business, and this, that, the other. It's COVID time. You've got trauma going on.
Oh, you got proper booted then, didn't you?
All these factors were like, you've got issues. And then I was like, is it really that? I don't know. And then so like at the time, oh no, it wasn't. It was pre-pandemic. This wasn't it? Oh, it wasn't it? I'm getting my timeline messed up. But
that's all right.
There was a lot of stress going on. I went to doctors and they said like, oh, you've just got a lot of issues going on in your head. So I just put it down to that. But ultimately, I think it was obviously to do with this toxicity that I had. But
yeah.
I mean, I can't say for definite, but I'm pretty sure since I moved house, I've had no issues.
You've done all right. You look all right, mate. You're messing around, isn't it? So, does the Toronto move come on the back of witness? Do you have any time out? What is it?
Yeah, so I was injured at the back end of witness, and I just kind of played the odd few games after I got back from my knee. But that's when my hip started to hurt and things like this, and I had a bit of an ankle issue, but again, I think inflammation in all my joints. This was causing this problem. So I was having all these joint problems that I never had in my career, really, apart from when I was younger, when I had that back problem. But apart from that, I never really had any joint issues ever. And then I started to get all these joint pains and issues. But anyway, Rolls then picked me up and said, like, look, do you want to play for us? And obviously, I had a great time with Rolls. And then, but as soon as I got to the Toronto camp and stuff, my heart wasn't in it anymore. Like, it just wasn't, and I think Rolls knew straight away. And I'd lost so much weight. I just wasn't the person I was like when obviously 2 years before when I left Lee. So
yeah.
But again, hindsight's a great thing, and if I had probably got some help or been able to move out the house and get myself healthy again, probably would have been all right. But again, it's one of them things. It's just a series of bad events that just didn't go my way, and I took it the wrong way as well, and just thought the world was out to get me when really I was just not too well, and then just making some poor decisions. Yeah.
Well, you've lived and stood by him, mate. I mean, and come out the other side. So on the back of the Toronto, then, mate, you touched on a few of the things you're doing. So you're doing the cold water therapy, teaching that. You're doing the red light therapy, which is all over your social. So before you tell us what you're doing, what your job is, and what you're teaching, do you want to tell the viewers and listeners what your socials are so they can have a look at it and see whether it's beneficial to them? And
of course, well, I'm most active on Instagram. It's at Armstrong89, but you can find me on LinkedIn. So Tom, I think I'm Tom Anthony Armstrong on LinkedIn, but just Tom Armstrong, you'll find me. LinkedIn, and then on pretty much all social media, just same thing. T Armstrong89, Twitter, everything like that is all the same.
Yeah.
But I'm most active on Instagram. But so like the whole how I got into that kind of side of things, like kind of a holistic coaching setup and principle, is because I had to find a way of alleviating pain and getting out of it. And after speaking to obviously tens of doctors and specialists, and they were all saying you're either mentally ill or you've got some underlying issue that we can't treat. So just take some pain relief medication, blah blah blah, this, that, the other. Put a plaster on it, and you'll be all right. You'll back on. And that's fundamentally that is obviously the issue with the medical industry. And I don't think it's I don't think it's a problem with the individual doctors, because it's not. It's just the fact that they don't have enough time, don't have enough resources, don't have enough money to look at you as an individual and see what's going on with your life and with what's going on in the house, in the home, like see if there could be some environmental factors that's causing an issue. There could be some toxins that you're absorbing and you're eating and you're getting in your nutrition that you don't know about, that you wouldn't know about unless you started to research this, like I've done for the last 4 or 5 years now. And you wouldn't know about all these factors that can affect your physical health. That's down to like the gut issue, your gut issues essentially, because the barrier that you have from any external toxins in your environment are basically your mouth and your skin. Like, you know, you put things in your mouth, you're putting stuff in your mouth that's poisonous to your body because your gut is in a state of inflammation because you've got a poor microbiome due to environmental factors or nutritional factors that you've just not taken into consideration, that you don't think is affecting you. Then that can then affect your brain stem. It can affect your whole body. It's called these pro-inflammatory cytokines that are released from your gut, which basically tell your body that we need to inflame the area. We need to cause an autoimmune response to kind of help this. And that triggers then inflammation throughout the body, and can trigger inflammation throughout the body depending on how far along and how ill you are.
Yeah.
But the thing is, with what I'm working with at the minute is I'm speaking to university, I'm speaking to top level athletes, I'm speaking to people who are at the top of the game as well, because I had these issues and I'm not allergic to. I have sensitivities to some refined sugars, maltodextrose, and some whey proteins, certain things that you consume by mass when you're trying to put weight on and you're trying to perform. And some of these in
the environments you've been in as well,
exactly.
Yeah.
Some of these things that I was putting into my body were making me at the time tired the next day, but I didn't realize it was that. So I'd having twice as many coffees to get me through the day and for this. And I didn't put these things together. So like if you're performing as a top level athlete, I'm speaking to Johnny Lomax as well at the minute and seeing if we can get him on board, and he's keen to get on board with the gut analysis that we do. And basically, if you're performing at the peak, and you might be able to even stay at the peak for longer, or you might be even surpass where you're at if you can just tweak that kind of the nutrition that you put in your body. And I'm not saying I'm a nutritionist. I've been doing this for like looking into it quite in depth for the last 5 years. I'm not an ill-educated person. I understand it, but I can't say I'm a nutritionist because I'm not. But we work with a team of nutritionists, Cambridge labs, and basically people who are nutritionists. And so we get I can recommend you to our gut testing, gut screening, and then we get a full dossier of what you should eat, what you can eat, what's right for you, and what's wrong for you, and then we can then curate a diet plan and then the supplementation plan on the back of that to help you recover your gut, so that you then can recover your body and be working and performing at the peak, at your peak level. Yeah. You might not know what your peak is yet, you know what I mean? That's why we're speaking to like these universities, we're speaking to top level clubs and athletes to try and get them involved to take a little bit of a scientific approach and a bit of a holistic approach as well, because people think your gut doesn't affect your body, but it massively does. Your gut was evolved more than likely before your brain, because if you look at like you look at animals that have evolved over time, they tend to be a gut and just limbs, and like a digestive system with limbs, and then you develop the brain later on when you start to be adapted to your situation. And like we were adapted to cooking foods, and we learned how to make fire. Then obviously digestion became a lot quicker, so then we had more time to think, and that's the theory of obviously how we evolved. So like, but the connection with the brain and gut is so like it's such an important connection that but now, because we're so fixated on phones and social media and everything, we're unaware of the subtleties of what the gut response is and the signals that it sends to the brain and the body. So little things like you might get like psoriasis, eczema, you might have certain like dark circles, or you might have certain like things that might be skin issues, but then you think it's just a skin issue. We're going to put some hydrocortisone cream on there, or we're going to take antacids because you've got really bad bloating, really bad gas. You're going to take antacids. That's what you get told to do, but you're just masking a problem that could be deeper, that could be a signal from your gut to say, look, stop eating this kind of food. I'm not dealing well with it. Look, I'm starting to. You've got some kind of leaky gut issue, or you've got some kind of it's causing a systemic problem that's starting in the gut. Get that right, and then you can go to your doctor.
Everything else will follow.
Then go to the doctor once you've got your baseline. Once you find your baseline, that's what I'm big on doing, is trying to get people to the baseline. Take people, I take people on retreats, and like I said, you touched on cold water therapy. That's just a tool. Again, you just do that. It's just like it's kind of it helps your body, just a bit of shock. But I take people away on retreats and stuff like this to try and get the baseline, so then they can go, okay, let's rule out the fact that you've got all these chronic ailments. Let's just go away for 3, 4, 5 days if you can, and then let's see if you improve. Because I have my granddad who's sadly gonna, he's not got long left with his dementia. He came away with us for 3 days about 6 months ago. And when he got there, he couldn't even walk. When he left 3 days later, after taking away most of the toxins in the environment, have been around people, talking all the time, taking away bad foods. I was obviously cooking all organic stuff, and I'm actually moving up and down the stairs helping up and downstairs day one. But by day 3, he's walking up and down the stairs, going to try and sneak a beer from the top floor when I said he can't. It's like, if that can happen to someone in late stage dementia after 3 days, what can happen to people who are just if you take control of this, your health from the age of 30, 40, it's never too late. But at the same time, the sweet spot is obviously if you're in your 20s, then if you can find out what's going on, you can kick on from there. And that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm really passionate about, as you can see. And
it's good, mate, isn't it? It's good. You're not just preaching, mate. You're going out to the experts. That's the difference in a lot of things. You're building bridges and networking with experts, elite people in them fields. And you're not just giving out bad advice or common advice or nonsense. You're giving out facts, and you're giving out things that have worked for you. You're not saying it might work for them. That's what them retreats are about. You're testing them on them, and then if it's not that, you've said, right, well, let's call back and find something else. You're trying, mate.
And that's what I tried everything, especially with my hip, and I was I got a credit card maxed out by going to this guy. I won't say his name, but I went to this guy in London for this therapy, this massage, and it was basically an intense kind of physio massage, but he's the world leader and all this, and he does all. To be fair, he was good, but he was a ridiculous amount. And then I got back, and 6 months later, I was back to square one. Do you know what I mean? Or even less, a few months later, I was back to square one. So basically, he just manipulates the fascia inside you and trigger points, basically, but intensely for a week. You keep going back to him. He does all this intense stuff for a week, or even longer, maybe 2 weeks. And basically alleviated a lot of the pain in my joints, and it did help. But then as soon as I was back in that environment, I started to regress and go back. And the reason I got onto red light and I actually started to develop the red light side of the company, True Lights, was because I was using it, and I was actually I started to come off naproxen, I started to come off codeine, and started to think okay, I'm starting to feel better. It can't just be a coincidence that I'm putting this on every day and it's helping, even if it was placebo for me. But then there's so many studies now that say that there is double blind studies and stuff. It does help. But again, I'm not saying that it's the be all and end all. It's going to help every single person, but because I got so much benefit from it, I thought let's speak to some companies and let's see if I can get this manufactured for me, so then I can help other people and push it out there, because it's massive in America. NFL teams have recovery rooms that are full of these machines, and usually the Americans are 5 to 10, 5 years ahead of us. And I just saw this massively in the biohacking scene in America, and I thought, let's give this a try, give it a whirl, and it was working wonders for me. And then after getting this removed from my hip, and then the doctor's surgeon saying my hip joint is really healthy, considering, he said, keep doing what you're doing, because it's no coincidence that you're.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's not coincidental, is it?
So I'm obviously pushing it out there, and I want people to obviously give these things a go. And I'm looking at getting into the top level of clubs and stuff like that to try and get into the top level athletes, get into rugby league, get into football, and let them try it, and then see if we can get a 1% better result, because a 1% better could mean winning or losing. It can mean staying on the pitch. It could mean staying on the pitch for an extra few games a year, or it can mean not getting injured at all. So that the cost of the actual getting a couple of red light therapies and using it in your treatment rooms is not that much, considering you're keeping your players on the pitch potentially, or you're getting them back from injury quicker, or you're helping them recover from surgery quicker, like all these things will add up, and it's for the cost of what it is. It's you make it back within, one player not being injured for 1 week. You know what I mean? So I'm a big advocate because it worked for me. But like I said, I'm not saying it's the best thing. It's a miracle thing but it's got so many. The way it works is on your mitochondria. Mitochondria produce more ATP because the way the light resonates and the way it's scattered by the mitochondria. There's a lot of science that goes into it, but essentially it's just the way that your cells vibrate, and it helps to produce more ATP. ATP is the energy source, the fuel source of your body. And so if you've got more available ATP, you've got more energy to be used to repair, to recover, to grow muscle, all these things. And then that's why it's got so many reasons, so many things that it benefits for. And that's why so many people say, oh, these things can't do that many things, which probably can't. But if you're using it every day and it does help you recover, then it does work. Like that's the point.
It's kickstarting them, isn't it? Yeah, of course it is. Right. So most of what you've done is simply off the fact that you've given it a good crack yourself, that you've maybe not been in the best place mentally, certainly not physically, because of stuff like your 4 centimetre bone in a cup and that. Like the black pitch sounds like it didn't help you. Like, I'm not going to blame the high pitch, but it's not helped, does it? No. And then you travel, your wife being unwell, you've got the little one, and everything combines, make stress levels, don't help injuries either, like you've said. So you've gone out and tried everything. You're not pushing on people anything you've not done yourself.
No.
Which, when you're playing, that's exactly what you want from your teammates, is not asking you or doing something that they wouldn't do themselves.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, I'm not going to say that. Like I said, I'm not saying that if you use me as a coach or whatever, however you want to speak to me, however you want to get in touch with me. Like, I'm not saying that I'm God, or I like everything I do is like perfect, but I know that a set of systems that I've used over the last 5 years, and especially when I had this in my joint, and especially when I was told that I shouldn't do any more cycling, running, I shouldn't do anything. I should just resign myself to the fact that I'm going to have a hip replacement at 35. That's what the consultant said to me. And because I had that obstacle in my way, and I found a way around it, I've read around every single subject that I could, and like absorb as much information on the human body and on how I can get over this obstacle and get past this. That's how I've taught myself. And then I try and help. I only take on like 4 or 5 people at once, because I know it's an intensive process that I do. If I'm going to coach someone, I want to go into their life. I want to understand what's going on with them completely.
You're all in.
I can't be this guy who goes, oh yeah, I'll just go and put you on a fitness program and just do as a program and as a nutritional thing, because I know that even the fact that I know that identical twins only share 30% of the gut microbiome. So even identical twins have so much variance. I know this, and I can't bring myself to go, here's a diet plan and eat this and you'll lose weight. You probably will, and you probably might gain a bit of muscle, but then ethically in my head I'll think, oh, what if they have an issue with that food? Like,
you're just individualizing everything to the absolute pit, aren't you?
Yeah,
it's nothing about what you do is genetic.
No, that's it. That's it.
No, it's mad, mate, and I'm surprised you trust anyone after what you've been told to do. I know. You must absolutely question everything and everyone.
Yeah, it was a big thing for me during the whole pandemic, and like after obviously having a taste with the medical industry before that, and then I was like, when they're all forcing you around these paths and telling you to mandate these things, I'm like, on whatever. I was just like, whoa, 1 minute, I was just cut open on a theory that I've got inflamed joints, and I've not been paying for it. I've had pain ever since. I'm not listening to anyone. I've got to do my own research. So I was this guy, like, reading through everything possible, and like the thing is, modern day person has to find a way to get the right information and not just look on social media and use that as your information, because you're just gonna get fed rubbish every day, and you're gonna end up like thicker than you were when you came out, or more confused than you were when you came out. You just got to find some nice sources of information, some trusted people that you can speak to.
Yeah,
credible people that you can like ask, or even listen to the blogs or articles or whatever. Find different sources of news and then make your own decision, because 9 times out of 10, most of the world is run by money, and the issue is that it's not the doctors the issue. Someone above them is telling the doctor what to do, and they don't have time. They don't have time. It's not the doctor's fault. It's usually the corporation or facilitate the work, and it's not their issue essentially. They're just following orders, and that's why I don't have distaste for doctors and people who have advised me which way, because at the end of the day, they're probably put under so much pressure, and I wouldn't want to be a doctor myself because of the amount of stuff they put under. But
you've just challenged each other, Tom, haven't you? And you've probably made each other better. Because you've both gone out and looked into it. Well, you a lot more, them probably a little bit more, like you said, because of time and resources. You've just challenged each other, and you've hopefully, and it looks like you've come out on top now, mate, and the rest will be history, and we'll have another chat in a while and see how well you're doing and that. But so again, it's T Armstrong 89 on Instagram, and you're on that a lot more, but you're on LinkedIn and stuff if people want to reach out and have a chat and inquire with you, in it, mate.
If anyone wants any questions, ask any. If anyone's got any issues, like I was saying, to people who potentially living in a toxic environment and stuff, they want to just ask what are the telltale signs or anything like that, like in terms of whether they might have more toxicity, I don't know, whether they want to just have a chat about a nuanced look at health and fitness, and looking at a holistic approach. And I'm always just message me on Instagram, or you can email me support@tafit.co, or just go to our website and there's links on there. You can click onto tafit.co, www.tafit.co, and you can just find me through there. And if you want to, I answer questions to people all over the world who ask me random stuff, and I'm always happy to chat if I've got time. So just give us a shout. Happy
days, mate. So that point in the chat, I've got a few daft questions for you.
Go for it.
So, did you have any pre-match superstitions?
I ended up developing quite a few, to be honest. At Lee, when things were going quite well, I'd stay in the change rooms with the lads for like the first 5-10 minutes solo, so I didn't look like an idiot. But then I'd go into a room and just literally sit in a room with my head down, staring at the floor in a cubicle, like it was a closed toilets in the side by the physio room. And I just go in there and sit in there with my headphones on and watch YouTube videos to distract myself, either motivation stuff, but then when I get too anxious sometimes, and I just watch just random funny videos to try and take my mind off it.
And it no longer said toilet, it said T. Armstrong.
Tom's a weirdo.
So, where was your favourite away ground?
Away ground. Bradford was a good one.
Do you prefer the older ones, Tom, or do you like the newer?
I prefer the older ones, to be honest. Obviously, I've not really played them. Did I play any new ones? I didn't get to play at the new Saints ground. I played. Obviously, I love the league ground. That was just a great pitch to play on. I just liked a good pitch, one that was well maintained, one where you could step and not fall on your ass.
I wouldn't know about stepping, mate. You'll be all right.
Yeah, you want to play at Batley? That wasn't a nice place to play at.
I believe so, mate. I believe so. So the toughest player you've played with and against, if you can think, definition of tough is very different for everybody as well, Tom, isn't it?
I know that's a really tough one, but toughest. It's a different. Obviously, in terms of just doggedness and just who just keep going and just never quit. I'd say someone like this is difficult. Someone just for the sake, he's not necessarily given a rap of being tough, because he's not. He's just consistent. He's just there every day and week in, week out. So it's a toss up between I'd say Bob Bezic and Andrew Dixon. I know that's kind of like Dicko is not exactly like the most vocal or would shout you, but he just would never give up. Do you know what I mean? He's always there. Yeah. Not the loudest player, but just would never give in. And it was just, I think he's just he still doesn't miss a game today.
He's just
played about 1,000 games in a row.
He is Mr. Reliable, isn't he? And it's funny you say that, because they're both good mates for one. Both big into the fitness and that, aren't they? We've had Dicko on because we used to play against Dicko, so he played Crossfields, didn't he?
Oh yeah.
So you might not have played against Dicko with
Crossfields,
did you?
He was the massive kid. He was
mate.
He's the same size as you now. Dragging the whole team along.
He was, and then he signed for Blackbrook then, didn't he, when all that happened? But no, he good lad, and again, someone that's a similar channel to you with the rehab and looking at how things can work differently, isn't he? There must just be something in our age group, mate, where we've grew up a little bit, maybe, I don't
know. I know.
So your go-to karaoke song, mate?
Oh my God, honestly, anything I sing is pretty much killed off. Probably be a rap. Probably be like some kind of Eminem.
Have you got that in you? Yeah.
Yeah. You probably Lose Yourself by Eminem or something. I've got a few. I know a few. I know like every single word to his albums, so I'm like a nerd.
That's high skill stuff, that, isn't it?
It is, isn't it?
It is, mate. Yeah, flashback. So, again, if you're willing to, it'd be nice, but if you don't want to, I understand. But 1 to 13 that you played with?
It's difficult, isn't it?
You can double up if you want to double up on positions, mate.
Yeah, I'll try and go through it quickly.
No worries.
Full back, Wellens, wingers. I have to say, Liam Kay, who's class, obviously playing with Liam, is other wing would be I think someone's going to kill me now for not remembering names. And by the way, I'm so bad with names. I will come back to that. Centre,
no worries.
Matt Gidley, and probably Jamie Lyon. Obviously, I can't put myself in there. And I'd say back rowers, Dicko and Matty Ashurst. Just consistency. And I grew up with them. Props. Oh, James Graham. And I can't think, to be honest. Someone's going to kill me. I'm so bad. Who else did I play?
We can come back to it. So you've
and then 13, probably Kieran Cunningham.
Yeah. Where's Kieran playing? 9 or 13?
13. Oh no, Scully, Kieran, and then Longian, and then I'll go for. I'm going to say Martin Ridyard because he's a pal.
Yeah, so you've got Longy and Riddy. Who's your winger?
We got Kay.
Did you have Eddie Gardner? Did you play?
Yeah, Gardner on the other wing. We got Riddy Kay on this wing, and then
I need a prop off you.
Oh, prop. We'll put Big Sam Barlow.
Yeah,
he was good with his hands. Scored a lot of tries off Sam, even though he played back row. But we'll say. Yeah,
he'll play where he's told to play from you, mate, won't he? All right, no, thanks very much for your time, mate. Appreciate it.
I'll have to throw Matt Sarsfield in there somewhere as well.
He
was my back row.
Yeah, so we'll throw in with Matty in it.
We've got the full Lee left side there. Full Lee left side, then the rest.
Best side.
Left side, strong side.